Hello everybody and welcome back to another Brawlmachine battle report. It's been a few minutes now since I've done one of these. No particular reason for that, honestly, just haven't been having as many recordings sitting on the backlog, and this one's been taking a while to edit up, but hopefully it's a good one here. Hopefully it was worth the wait, and hopefully we can get back to a slightly more consistent schedule going forward. But yeah, so we've got Denny 1 versus Kaya. I want to say it's 2. It's the one riding the wolf, that much I know. And yeah, it was another battle report of myself against Dean. So I will be doing the double commentary on this one. I will be commentating both sides. There was no real negative feedback on the last time I did that, so hopefully you guys are all right with that. And yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into the lists. I'm going to go over those quickly, and then we'll start the battle report. Alright, so starting off with my Cryx list today, I think I've brought a very similar list to this one in the past. My last Cryx versus Circle game was also a Denny game, and most likely Denny won. I don't remember it perfectly. So this is kind of my go-to Denny list. It's one of the few lists that I have that I've actually run multiple times, and I enjoy playing enough to continuously use it. So it is Denegrah 1. Probably one of my favorite casters in the game. She's got nothing too impressive on the front of her card, although Shadowbind is really nice. She is only a map 5, so she often has a bit of a rough time hitting with that unless it's her feet turn. She does have parry, which is nice. Just lets her move around the map a little bit easier. And then she has stealth. She hits for POW 12. The most impressive thing, though, on this side of the card is probably Focus 7. That's just a pretty solid stat to have. Going on to the back of her card here is where we get some slightly more interesting things. She has a really powerful spell list. She has Black Talons, which on a crit gives Shadowbind, but otherwise it's just kind of her nuke spell. I don't use that one too often, but it does exist if she ever needs it. She's got Crippling Grasp, which is an upkeep 3 cost that gives -2 speed, strength, defense, and armor. Crazy good debuff. She has Dark Seduction, which can be really good for snagging a warrior model and using it to kill off a solo or something like that, or even a unit leader. Super useful, and it's a little expensive at 3, but when it matters, it's definitely worth it. She's got Ghost Walk, which is a really good utility spell. Ghostly is just a fantastic ability, so having it on a stick, always useful. Parasite, her next debuff spell here, -3 armor, and she gets +1 armor, and it's on an upkeep. This is really good for heavy warjacks and stuff like that. You get to throw the arm debuff on them because they don't really need the defense debuff, but so it's a better arm debuff on these guys. And it's just a second debuff that she can throw out because they're both upkeeps, which is really nice if you manage to get both of them off. And then lastly, Venom. This is kind of her spammable clearing out infantry spell. She really, I mean, she does a lot against everything here, but personally, I like to use this to just kind of clear infantry because I don't want to be wasting Crippling Grasp or Parasite on infantry. So this is just a spray 8, POW 10, continuous corrosion. Super useful. Nothing too crazy, but it is only a 2 cost, so she can spam it pretty effectively. Enemy models in her control range get -2 to pretty much everything on her feet. Only thing this doesn't really hit that hard is spell slingers because they've got magic attack stats instead. But -2 to speed, strength, rat, defense, and armor. They're slowed down, they're not hitting very accurately, and they're taking damage really fast. Just a fantastic feat. Already on her card alone, you can see she's got a -5 armor swing, so you can kind of see where this list is going. Going into the actual list here, I brought a Stalker. Stalkers are just fantastic models. I am in Scourge with Broken Coast specifically so I can get Gangfighter on my Warjacks. Again, just adding another +2 to that damage swing, so the Warjacks are hitting up to a +7 already on the damage swing, which, you know, perfect conditions stars align, but honestly, that's not even that hard to get. That's a feat +1 spell +1 infantry guy in range. Pretty good. That brings these guys up to POW 19s if I really want them there, which is absolutely insane. Stalkers are just also fantastic solo hunters and skirmishing pieces. Then I have the Slayer here. Slayer's just kind of, I threw him in because I needed something that's hitting hard without the debuffs. POW 16 isn't crazy hard, but given that there's so many debuffs in this list, that's easily going to be an 18 at least most of the situations that he's going to be in. And he's relatively cheap, just kind of beat stick. You need something that can take the hits for you as well. Next, I have the Ripjaw. This is just because I needed arc nodes. I upgraded it from the Death Ripper because I had the 1 point to do so. And personally, I find the crit armor piercing and powerful attack very, very appealing. Does it happen super often? No, but when it does, it's a really big deal. But mainly, this thing's just here for an arc node. Same for the Defiler, but the Defiler is also doubling up on the venom sprays. It's pretty much got its own venom spray on it. Its only exception being it's a Route 5, so it's not super accurate, but as an arc node that also gets a little bit of its own output, usually I find this thing's worth the extra 2 points from a Death Ripper. Going on to my infantry, I am bringing General Gerlak Slaughterborn. General Gerlak Slaughterborn is a solo. He's got a handful of nice little things that he gives the Bloodgorgers, who are also in this list. Notably, he gives them Berserk, and he gives them +1 to hit. Berserk is really, really useful on these guys because they already have Overtake. Just a fantastic combination. Not to mention, he kind of just comes in swinging real, real hard. He gets the Grievous Wounds on his Weapon Master, POW 13 Great Axe. This thing hits like a truck. And again, with all the debuffs in this list, it works really, really well. This guy can do serious number to pretty much any model he feels like going into, and he gives a pretty good buff to the unit. Moving on, I have the Void Archon. Here we take that +7 damage swing we've been looking at, and we make it a +9. While in his melee range, enemy models get -2 armor. That's really the biggest reason he's in this list, but he also has a lot of other things that he provides to the list. He's throwing some extra sprays in there. This list really, really clears out infantry. He's got a spray 10 with assault POW 14 too, so it's not like a POW 10 or anything like that. No, this thing can hit warjacks. He's got entropic force, so he's got some anti-tough, which is really, really nice, and anti-heal, of course. He can collect souls to go incorporeal, which is useful. Doesn't come up too often, mainly because usually I find that he ends up in situations where things that can hit him end up being there anyways, but useful when it's there. And then Void Walk is really what keeps him alive. If he kills something, he gets to teleport away. It's fantastic. The only thing he can't do is he can't fail an assault to teleport away. But if he gets to walk and spray something or charge something and kills any of his models between the spray or the charges, he's got a free teleport to safety. Super useful, very powerful model. Next, we have the Satyxis Raider Captain. Raider Captain is kind of my add-on to this list. She doesn't really provide a crazy amount to the rest of the synergies in the list, but as you've noticed, a lot of the things I have right now are armor debuff based, so she's kind of supposed to be my defense debuffer. Denny can do a fair bit on her own. She gives me a little bit more. She's mat 8 as a base, and she can throw out some knockdowns if she gets in melee. She's got sprint, so she might even survive when she does it, if there's something else that she can kill with her melee. Otherwise, she's good enough to just sit on a flag and shoot things for the game, as well as kind of threaten that POW 9 Weapon Master knockdown, because she threats reasonably far. So overall, just kind of a useful model to have in the list. And then lastly, we go on to my infantry. I mentioned them earlier. I like the Bloodgorgers. I really, really like min-unit Bloodgorgers with Denny. I don't know, I just find, POW 11s, they're usually not super impressive, but under Denny, those are easily POW 15s, and it's not hard to bring them even higher. These things just do crazy amount of work with Denny, and they're also just spreading out Scourge of the Broken Coast theme benefits, because, if you're running Scourge, you want to have some infantry that you can use to take advantage of that, and these guys are great for that. They're going to cleave through infantry. They've got Overtake and Berserk. They've got Bloodthirst, so their threat range against living is pretty impressive, and they're relatively annoying to remove. Defense 12 is nothing to write home about, and honestly, neither is Armor 18 in melee, but Tough exists, so they have reasonable chances of surviving pretty much anything, right? So yeah, that's the list here. This is one of my favorite lists in the game. And yeah, we'll move on to Dean's list. Alright, so Dean's list today, he brought Kaya the Wildheart. Like I said, I believe this is... Oh, it is Kaya 3. My apologies for the intro. So Kaya the Wildheart, I personally don't know these models quite as well, so I'm going to go over them as best as I can. But she gives Field Marshal Repo 3, which is pretty useful. She's also got Soothing Song, which is nice for Fury management. And generally, she threats okay being a cav model. She's deceptively accurate. POW 12 is decent. With Fury 6, which is nothing crazy, but we'll take a look at the back of guard here. And we'll see, she's got a pretty decent spell list, actually. So she's got Blood Spiller. That's kind of an offensive spell that lets her battle group charge them without being forced. Super useful. Flashing Blade, so if she needs to go in and kill stuff, she totally can. She can kill infantry, she can kill solos, whatever she needs to do. Flashing Blade's pretty good for that. She's got Fog of War, which is really, really useful for getting her up the board. I get the impression that she likes to run melee heavy armies, and Fog of War is definitely good for that. And then lastly, kind of her star spell here is Synergy. Synergy is just a fantastic spell. Giving her battle group up to a +3 is really, really good. So yeah, that's something that she's kind of based around. So obviously here she's liking battle group, she's liking melee. Um, and then we move on to her feat. So her feat is a nice little defense boost, and the big thing is cannot be targeted by free strikes. And also they basically get acrobatics parry. Um, it's really, really good. That allows her to easily get into the back lines. Great for things like assassinations, great for just picking out targets that your opponent was trying to protect. Super, super useful feat. Really cool ability there. For her battle group, she's bringing 2 Satyrs and a Warpwolf, the Gnarlhorn, Shadowhorn, and the Stalker. So the first Satyr here is the Gnarlhorn. This thing's whole deal is slams. It likes slams. It doesn't like being slammed. It's got the animus that stops it from being knocked down or slammed or anything like that. It's got counter slam, it's got follow up, and it's got grand slam. I'm going to say the word slam way too many times on this model. And then he's got hard head, which of course makes his slams even more powerful. Other than that, just a generally good beat stick. Pretty solid model, especially with counter slam. It's kind of clearing off a section of the board. Being a Satyr, it's a little bit slower, but with counter slam, it kind of makes up for that. Moving on, we have the Shadowhorn Satyr. This one, unlike the other one, instead of being all about slamming, this one likes jumping. So its animus is giving it elusive, which is dodge. Dodge is just generally speaking pretty good. It's got Bounding Leap, which gives it a pretty decent threat range, and then it's got Beat Back on its claws, which is nice. Other than that, just kind of another beat stick. This one doesn't hit quite as hard, but is a little bit more versatile. And then we move on to the Warpwolf Stalker. The Stalker is kind of his main powerhouse of this list when he wants to do damage. Of course, he can warp Strength or he can warp Berserk. Both of those are really, really good for just getting in there and killing things. He's got Prowl for concealment, or rather for stealth in concealment. He's got Lightning Strike as the animus. This is also, of course, his fastest War Beast, not counting the leap on the Satyr. It's got regeneration, so it's going to heal on its own. He doesn't have to allocate resources to healing it. Lightning Strike's a fantastic animus, especially on something that's very capable of killing things. It's got a POW 18 and a POW 16, so that POW 18 is going to come in real hard, especially under something like Synergy. This model is just really hard hitting and reasonably survivable because of things like Lightning Strike. Moving on to solos, we have the Blackclad Wayfarer. My understanding is this thing is majority in the list for Hunter's Mark here. Just that little threat extension and the lack of needing to spend focus or being forced. Super, super useful. Other than that, it does have a couple other abilities. He wasn't bringing Shifting Stones here, so that part didn't really matter there, but it does have Stone Spray, and it can kind of stay alive with Prowl. So it's got a reasonable utility with a nice critical effect if it does go off. And then just threat extensions are always good. Moving on from that, we have the Wolf with No Name. Wolf with No Name is an interesting model. He's got a range 12, POW 12, advanced deploy, so already you can kind of see what sort of thing he's looking to do. He's got prey. When he targets his prey, he's getting loot tokens. He can use those loot tokens to boost his attack and damage rolls, so he can hit reasonably hard or accurately depending what he needs to do. If he's hitting damaged models, he's got an additional die, so that becomes a POW 12 with 3 dice, with potentially 4 if he wants to spend a loot token on it. That can be really, really good. Like at that point, you're even able to target out things like heavies and stuff like that, and still break through some damage, which is really, really nice. Hyper regen, kind of keeping him alive there. But other than that, his defensive stats aren't anything too special. He's got 8 boxes, 15 armor, defense 13 though is pretty decent, and yeah, just a good flag camper all around. Now we move on to the units here. He's bringing the Wolves of Orboros. These guys are combined melee ambushers because of the theme, and they have powerful charge. There's nothing too crazy about them here. They're very straightforward. They're going to be accurate when they charge in. They're combined, so they can hit reasonably hard and even more accurate. And ambush is just a really interesting ability, especially on an infantry unit that's reasonably fast. Then we also have the Chieftain and Standard Bearer here. So these guys have a mini feat. Basically, they just get an additional die on melee damage. That cranks them up really hard in terms of damage. And then they also get Repo 3, which is a pretty solid ability to be giving. The Standard Bearer is just your typical Standard Bearer, nothing too special on him. But yeah, generally speaking, that mini feat means for one turn they are hitting like absolute trucks, especially if they're charging. That's, you know, similar to the Wolf with No Name. They're getting 4 dice on POW 11. That'll do work into pretty much anything. So that's the list there. I hope I did it justice. I'm kind of play Circle, but not really, so I'm not super familiar with the models or how well they synergize. But without further ado, we're going to get into the game, and hope you guys enjoy. Cryx, turn 1. Alright, so jumping into turn 1 here, I win the roll to go first, and I'm just having the Stalker there run up, kind of check the flag. I had a little bit of a debate between how I was going to arrange him with the logs there, because I wanted him to be able to charge if necessary. But I basically was just kind of like, he's going to stay out of threat of things and sit on the flag, and then I kind of was like, he's got his jump anyways, I'll just put him behind the log. So then I'm moving up the Void Archon to contest, and everything else is pretty much just kind of running up. I don't think there's anything too particularly interesting here with the movements. I have the Satyxis kind of running towards the flag. She's 0.1 out of the Wolf with No Name's threat, just because, you know, I'd rather she doesn't just get sniped off the board for no reason. She is the prey target of the Wolf with No Name, so I'm obviously being somewhat careful with her. Moving up everything else here, I do kind of make a mistake. The 2 models in the center there are my Defiler and Ripjaw, and then I start moving up the infantry. I realize I should have done the Slayer first because he's faster. I just moved Gerlak with the infantry, so Denny throws Ghost Walk on the Slayer, so that way I can throw him into the rough terrain without significant penalty. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to end off the movement here. Denny really doesn't do too much on turn 1. Aside from the odd Ghost Walk here and there, because she really doesn't have many buff spells. She's more about debuffs, so that'll be coming next turn. And yeah, that was turn 1. Circle, turn 1. Alright, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be commentating both sides here. So I won't be able to go quite as in-depth with Circle here, just because I wasn't the one playing them, so I don't really know the thought process necessarily behind everything. But here he's just trying to realizing that he's been out-threated, not necessarily through threat ranges, but more from the fact that I'm already fully threatening all the zones. So he's throwing stealth on the Warpwolf Stalker and just kind of running it into the zone. He's letting me have at it with melee all I want, but he's hoping I won't be able to get too many crippling debuffs on it, and it should hopefully be able to survive for him. And then from there, he's just going to kind of move up the Satyrs. This is a relatively small list, especially turn 1 here. There's not too much to kind of maneuver with, just because he's only got like 5 models on the board, something like that. The unit that you see there is going to be ambushed later. So yeah, there's really not much crazy going on here. The Satyrs both move up. Kaya is going to cast Fog of War and then charge, just to get that little extra distance. So we'll see that happen there. And yeah, other than that, the Blackclad is just going to run over to be beside Kaya. And that's pretty much this turn. Oh, and the Wolf with No Name is going to walk himself into the forest there. So yeah, not too much happening for the first turn for either side, but we've got battle lines engaged and ready for turn 2. Cryx, turn 2. Alright, so starting out here, I'm going to have the Defiler walk up, and he's going to take a shot at the Blackclad and the Shadowhorn there. So here I'm just kind of taking the spray for the sake of taking the spray, but I do have a focus, so I'm hoping I can boost damage onto the Blackclad. Sorry, no, I boost a hit onto the Blackclad because it can't really take much of a hit, and I think I was killing on average dice. So I boost the damage, or the attack roll here, and I unfortunately do end up missing that, which is big shame. So I'm not getting free kill on the Blackclad there. A little bit disappointing. I forget to roll into the shadow here because I wasn't expecting to actually do much to it, but I do remember it later, so we do end up rolling it out later. I end up hitting, I don't think I crack armor, and I put a poison counter on him. So then I'm moving up the other one here, just making sure it is within range of the Shadowhorn for spell targeting. Or not the Shadowhorn, the Warpwolf Stalker. And I don't actually think I remembered stealth here, but we'll see if that comes up again later. So now Denny is going and... oh, that was where I rolled into the shadow. Never mind. Now Denny is going and casting Crippling Grasp onto the Warpwolf. And yeah, there's where we adjust for the 5 inches for stealth. Because he definitely had the movement to do it. So I throw Crippling Grasp onto the Warpwolf. And it does hit. I boosted to hit. And now I'm going to have the Void Archon go first. He's just going to walk himself onto the flag and throw a spray into the Warpwolf. He was out of range for melee. He did plan that out. But I figure with Crippling Grasp, the spray can do some damage as well. So I hit its dice off 1 for damage, and I unfortunately only do 2 damage. I rolled a 3, which was very unfortunate. But it is what it is. So now I decided to commit to it anyways, so I have the Stalker come in here. And the Stalker is just going to try and tear into it as best as it can. I think I got it into back arc here. So I end up missing the first attack, which was really rough. But I hit the second one. I do something like 4 damage to it. And then I just start buying attacks. So the first one I roll Snake Eyes. The second one I hit and do only 1 damage. And then the third one I hit and do only 1 damage. So dice really failed me here. Not that I was expecting the Stalker to kill on its own, but I was definitely hoping for a little more than that. So now the Satyxis and the Slayer are both going to kind of run into the zone. The Satyxis is also just kind of respecting Wolf with No Name again. Slayer's popping himself up into the zone there. And then for the unit, I'm just kind of spreading them out a little bit, not too much, because I know he doesn't have too much in the ways of sprays or anything like that. But I'm just kind of throwing them up the board to exist and be ready to do stuff next turn when they can hopefully get into things. So yeah, that was my turn. A little bit less eventful than I'd been hoping for, but we've started. All right, Circle, turn 2. So here I made a fatal mistake. Dean ambushed in his unit, and I had been so concerned of them ambushing on the bottom side here that I completely forgot they can do it on the top, and I left both the Void Archon and the Stalker in range, which was a huge mistake on my part. I totally could have kept both of them out of range, literally just moving them like an inch further towards the bottom end of the screen there, and they totally would have been fine, but so that was a problem. The Wolf with No Name moves up and shoots at the Satyxis next. So I'm just gonna he's gonna finish placing down the models, and then we're immediately gonna move on to Wolf with No Name here. And so I guess I didn't respect the threat range. I don't remember what was going on with that, but either way, he's gonna shoot into the Satyxis. He's gonna boost to hit here because he's got the whole like loot token or whatever. And he's going to kill. I'm gonna fail tough, and he's putting his prey onto the unit. Interestingly enough. So now he's having the unit go in here. They're popping their mini feet. They're charging. He gets something like 4 of them into the Stalker, and like I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 as well into the Void Archon. Like I really left these guys way too far up, which was a little unfortunate here. So we're going to start rolling into the Stalker in a second. We're just kind of finagling them to see how many he can get in. A couple of them looks like we're kind of stuck behind. So we're going to start rolling into the Stalker first. So the first one hits, and we'll see that dice there in a second. And there's the hit, and he goes for damage, and he does 16 damage, which like is a huge amount. And then he hits the second one, and it's just dead. He completely wipes it off the board with only 2 of them. So significant overkill there. And then Void Archon, we're gonna see something kind of similar here. We're gonna have 4 of them. He rolls all the hits at once just because there's no movement or anything like that, and they have no alternate targets. And the first 2 just wipe them off the board. The first one does 4 damage, the second one does 10. And then he's gonna make all their repos here. So for the repos, I think he was just trying to kind of move them forward a little bit more, gum up what he can, but he didn't want to block off his own things too badly. So we'll see how he positions those here. But it was a relatively minor repo. There was no real crazy amount of process behind that. It was just kind of push things forward. So now it looks like we have Kaya going, and Kaya's going to cast Synergy here, and she's going to feat. And then she's kind of hoping to start off her own Synergy chain, but I think he realizes that he's not actually going to be able to do that with her. So instead, he just moves her up a tiny bit here and casts Blood Spiller at one of my infantry guys there. I don't know exactly which one he's about to hit here, but we'll see the dice being rolled in a second. And I think he's just double checking the stats on Blood Spiller here. And yeah, so okay, that guy right there, the one kind of in front of my Defiler or Ripjaw, he's gonna hit, and he's gonna roll damage in a second here, and he will kill. I do succeed the tough though, so I'm just knocked down. Now he's having the Stalker go in, and the Stalker's kind of just hoping to clear out both of my my little arc nodes here. So he's going to start off by swinging into the Defiler, which is the one on the lower end there. And so he's Warped Strength, but he's still Crippling Grasp, so they're kind of canceling out, and he does have a relatively low mat right now because of this. But with Synergy up, he's hoping that won't stick around for too long. So he's needing 8s, and he's only in reach with his sword, so he doesn't have his claw here. So for the Defiler, I believe he's hard rolling here, and he hits the first one into the Defiler, and he does 19 damage to it, leaving it on 1 box. So it's got a movement left. Its Cortex and Arc Node are both gone, and its head as well. So it's pretty useless right now, other than just existing. He then misses the next 3 into the Ripjaw, which is pretty brutal. So now he has the Shadowhorn going, and the Shadowhorn is charging the Slayer. So he's going to start rolling the dice here. He's going to hit the first one. He does 3 damage. He hits the second one for 4 damage, and he hits the third one for 4 damage, and then he's done. So the damage was a little disappointing for him there. I don't think he crippled anything. And yeah, there's him just rolling out those dice. And then we're going to have the Blackclad move up in a second here. Oh, he's just continuing to roll. And like I said, he hits pretty much everything, but the damage is just disappointing on all counts. So it's been a really weird game for damage so far. So he's having the Blackclad move up, and it's going to just spray the knockdown ogre, and he's just trying to finish it off there. And we're making sure he's within range, and he hits once he rolls the dice in a second here. He hits the Ogre and just kind of takes it off the board just for the sake of kind of removing pieces, as well as clearing up a path for the Gnarlhorn to come in and hopefully deal with the Ripjaw. So he's actually going to go for a slam here, and I believe he succeeds on the attack roll here, and he's just trying to slam it right into my Ogre and behind it there. So he's going to roll the attack in a second, and that will hit. He's going to slam the Ripjaw back into the other Ogren, and it ends up killing the Ogren. I failed the tough roll, or I guess I don't even get a tough roll because knocked down. And then it does something like 11 damage to the Ripjaw. And then he follows up, and we're gonna see the follow up in a second here. There it is. And he's just gonna take an attack into it. It's an auto hit because I'm knocked down, and he ends up killing. So now he's just gonna repo back. I think he goes back. Yeah. And yeah, that was Cryx Turn 2. So a lot got done there. Cryx Turn 3. Alright, so Denny's feeding this turn, obviously. I'm throwing one focus on the Slayer, and she's upkeeping the debuff on the Stalker, and then she's just going to walk up within 8 of the Gnarlhorn, and she's going to boost Parasite into him. My Arc Nodes are kind of gone, so she's having to get pretty close to do this herself, but I'm hoping to remove a lot of things from the board here. So I succeed. I land Parasite on the Gnarlhorn, which is pretty big, so now 2 of his biggest beatsticks are crippled. I've got the Slayer kind of planning to hopefully just obliterate this thing. He's got Gang Fighter, so he's hitting like a truck. The first one hits, and of course I rolled no damage. I boost the second one, I do 12 damage on that. The third attack, I do 9 damage, and then I buy a final attack, and thankfully I do manage to remove it from the board here. So here I'm just rolling that out. And yeah, this thing gets obliterated, but like not quite as quickly as or as easily as I'd been hoping for. Not that it really mattered, it's still left, but I definitely left it a little closer than I probably should have. So now I want to move Gerlak, but Counterslam exists. So first I move it, and then my opponent was kind enough to remind me that I will be counterslammed for that. So I move the Defiler around the Stalker, just to engage, so that way I don't get counterslammed. And now Gerlak's going to charge the unit. And Gerlak is an absolute beast. This game, I kind of fully realized just how much that statement is true. So he's got Overtaken Berserk, and that just kind of does work here. I start going through this unit, or one model at a time. I'm obviously avoiding the flag guy because then he can do the whole take-up shenanigans. And I hit this guy here. I take out something like 5 or 6 guys of the unit, and eventually I come back into the Warpwolf, and I end up doing something like 10 damage to it, which is absolutely crazy. So now I have the unit going. I'm putting 2 of them into the Warpwolf, 1 of them into the Blackclad. The first one into the Blackclad manages to kill it. So I'm going to see that rolled out in a second here. And yeah, so he's gonna hit the Blackclad here, and finally I managed to take this thing off the board. Not that it's been hugely influential, but it did kill one of the unit, which was a bit of a pain. So Blackclad gets removed here, and I just kind of overtake towards Kaya. I don't quite get in melee range, and then I have 2 going into the Stalker. So I just really needed to make sure this thing goes off the board. It's already taken a pretty decent chunk of damage, and the first one's going to roll into it here. So we'll let that roll out, and I do succeed on hitting it, and then I kill it, which is really nice. I guess one of them probably could have gone somewhere else, but it's not too big of a loss that I'm super upset about it. I was still able to take out the Warpwolf, and then he just kind of overtakes in such a way that he's not going to berserk into his own guys. And that was my turn, so it was a short turn, but a lot of things got killed. Circle Turn 3. Alright, so this game has ended up being closer than we expected it to. After his kind of initial takeout of my models at the top half, I wasn't expecting this to go on much longer, but Denny is just kind of a beast. So starting out, we're going to have the Gnarlhorn here kind of move forward. He's going to engage a handful of the front models here. Really his goal is to finish off this Defiler. So he ends up kind of switching it up. He decides to go on that end instead, give himself more angles with his other models. So he's just making his first attack into the Defiler. He hits and he kills it, no problem. And then he's going to start attacking Gerlak. And have I mentioned that Gerlak is an absolute beast? He misses twice, and then he finally hits, and he only does 3 damage, which is pretty huge. So there's the damage roll, but Gerlak's got buffs against damage in melee, and this one's parasited, not crippling grasp, but it is under Denny feet, so it's just all around it's just not a good time. Um, so he's gonna repo back here. At first, he decides he's gonna stay in the melee range of Gerlak, because obviously he doesn't want to take the free strike there. But then we do later determine on my turn that he didn't want to be in Slayer's threat range, and because he let me take back the thing against the counter slam earlier, I was okay with him moving out of threat, and we'll deal with that when my turn comes. So now the unit's coming in here, and they're just charging my unit basically. So they're going to do, the first one actually charges Gerlak, and he does 1 damage to him, so Gerlak's still hanging in here. And then the first one into the infantry kills one. The second one hits one of the infantry, but fails to kill it, so doesn't even have to get tough. And I'm going to let him roll out a little bit more here, but basically the same thing happens to another one. So that first one there, you see he fails to kill, and then the last one there, he also fails to kill. So dice kind of go sour on him at the end there. He moves the wolf with no name up and shoots him into the back arc of one of them. It is engaged, but also he's preyed and everything like that, so it kind of balances out. And he does, we'll see him rolling it out in a second here, but he does manage to kill it, which is pretty good. And then, maybe it is on this turn. I have in my notes here that he backs up the Gnarlhorn right after this, so we'll get to see that going through here. Or again, it's possible that's the next turn, and I just put it on this turn. But no. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's where we're noticing, hey, he's in range of the Slayer. So he agrees, or we agree he can back it up a little bit more just to be out of Slayer's threat. And I go to roll that free strike because it's going to be a heavy one. And Gerlak, of course, being the absolute monster that he is, he hits. And I roll the damage, and it does 14 damage to the thing. So this thing is severely wounded, but actually not crippled yet, surprisingly. So at least I don't think it was crippled. So now we have Kaya going. Kaya's got a few options here. He was debating, I know, kind of charging her into the main fray there, but of course with the Slayer there and everything, it would have been pretty dangerous for her. So he's also respecting Denny the best that they can. He's going to attack the model in his face here, and he actually, I succeed on the tough roll, so he has to hit it twice, which is kind of nice. I just burn out his focus a little bit. And then he goes and throws Fog of War back up, just to be safe against some Denny debuffs. And then he repos, and I don't actually remember which kind of part of the board he repos towards. I don't think he moves particularly far. But yeah, this was where he was kind of deciding what he's going to do with his Fury. He goes for the Fog of War, and then he throws her over to that zone just to kind of be able to threaten. Cryx turn 4. Alright, so first things first, I'm upkeeping Parasite. This game is turning out to be a lot closer than I expected, because even here, where I have so many less models on the board, I'm pretty confident I can take out most of this. So my goal here is pretty much to wipe the board. I don't think I have a scenario as a viable play. So Denny's moving forward. I'm confirming that I'm not within Kaya's threat here. And then I'm throwing Crippling Grasp onto the unit, actually, just to be extra safe that I can take them out with hopefully just one guy of my own infantry. So I throw the Crippling Grasp. I boost because of the Fog of War, and thankfully I do manage to hit. So I don't know if I've already rolled that yet. I don't think that was it. So yeah, no, this is where I start overtaking. So just my one guy in the unit, he's just going to kind of go ham here. And he's going to start cleaving through this unit one at a time. Again, avoiding the flag guy for as long as possible. And then, of course, I overtake, and he's able to counter slam. So he does so. And he hits and he kills. And now it's kind of, we were figuring out angles and how that was going to work. The only thing left in the unit at this point is the flag guy, which is pretty nice. So And there he's rolling the damage. I am indeed dead. At least I think we determined that I'm dead. Yes, and there I leave the board. So now I'm having Gerlak just kind of charge in because that was kind of his plan from the start anyways. So he's going to charge in, he's going to touch the flag, and he's going to hit into the Gnarlhorn here. And I do 11 damage to it, and I leave it alive at 3 boxes, which is a huge pain. The only thing it has left is its spirit. And if I'd killed it here, I would have been able to also kill the last flag guy. I would have scored that flag. It would have been a huge deal. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we passed turn. And for circle turn 4, we kind of see where this is going pretty quickly. He's already pretty much won on scenario. All he has to do is contest me on the middle zone and remove Gerlak, and then he can just put everything on flags and he wins. So all he has to do is kill Gerlak. Gerlak's been a survivor. So I'm just kind of crossing fingers at this point. And Dean obviously walks his Warbeast into it. He hits the first one, but he's boosting everything because he is crippled. And he does succeed on killing, unfortunately. And I fail my tough roll, so now all he has to do, move models into positions, and that is game. And there you have it, guys. That was Denny 1 versus Kaya 3. Honestly, that was probably one of the better games I've played in a long time. I had a lot of fun with that. I've been saying that about the last few battle reports because honestly, the last few battle reports have been really, really good, in my personal opinion. They've just been like matches like this. Kind of remind me what I love about this game. It was close from the very beginning. We were back and forth quite a few times, and towards the end of the game there, that was anyone's game. If Gerlak had hit just a little bit harder, Gerlak would have killed the Gnarlhorn, and that would have been my game. If I'd positioned things slightly differently at the end, I also might have still been in that game. I definitely made some major misplays here, but it ended up being a really, really fun game. Notably, I definitely could have done better with my stuff near the top of the board there when he ambushed in. I kind of just threw away a Void Archon for no reason. The Stalker, I'm a little less sure if that was actually a throwaway or if there was much of a way to protect him. But the Void Archon definitely didn't have to go there, so that was a huge waste on my part. But overall, this was just a really, really well fought game, and yeah, no, props to my opponent because that was a fantastic game. I find lately Dean and I have been having some really, really good games every time we play, so might see a few more of these on the channel, games against Dean in the near future because well, he's back now, now that school has started, and yeah, hopefully we can get some more content rolling again. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to close out this video. If you guys have any thoughts, comments, or just general ideas, if there's specific lists that you'd like to see us try, if we have it in our collection, we'll always try to do that. But otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, peace.